Hey everybody, welcome back to the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. I'm your host, GordoGambles, and welcome back to another Dana White Contender Series breakdown, this time for week number 2, and we're back at it again. Just like every single Monday, me, Liam Picks Fights, and NarcoCop are going over every single fight on the Dana White Contender Series slate. You know what we're going to do? We're going to be breaking it down from top to bottom, giving our predictions, our best bets, seeing what the odds have been like, and how we are targeting each and every fight. Last week, I managed to come out on top in the green, and we're looking to do that exact same thing this week. Quickly, before I introduce our wonderful guest, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and let's get her going. First things first, we got our main man, NarcoCop. He's not at his main setup, but he's here to make us some money nonetheless. How are you doing, my man?
What's up, brother? Thanks for having me. Yeah, man. Working the iPad today, not a computer, so we had to do it a little later today, and it's my fault. I take full credit for that. But I'm ready to rock and roll. I have some pretty good spots that I really like here, and hopefully it comes to fruition.
For sure, man. And I know a couple people online were saying it was going to be Liam's fault because, you know, that man's fashion late all the time. But there you go, taking responsibility on the tablet nonetheless, ready to make some money no matter where we are. But speaking of our main man, Liam, here he is back in his home setup. How are we doing, Liam?
I'm doing very well, and I was in fact late, so apologies everybody, but ready to get going and ready to break down these fights. Went very, very deep on the main event, so I'm excited, guys. Should be good stuff.
Fashionably late, and it's going to be worth it because we kill it. I love it. I love the breakdowns you guys have. I know we're on some opposite sides on some of them, so we're going to break it down nonetheless, go over every single fight, top to bottom, like I mentioned, cover everything. Before we do, what's going on with everybody in the chat? Of course, we got Wiz in there saying, what's up? Daz File is always here. Tim in the chat as well. Mushroom was the first one here. What's going on, Mushroom? How are we doing today? George is here. Luke is here. Kyle's here. Even the GOAT, Tajik, is here. The whole crew is here to help us make some money today. And I say we don't waste any time. Let's get into the very first Friday night. Of course, there was a bit of a schedule mix-up, so I'll give you guys some stats before I get going because I know we got to get our notes ready, those infamous Liam Picks Fights notes. So first things first, leading off the card, we have Billy Goff, 7-2, facing Shimon Smotresky. I'm not very good with names. That's okay. 8-1. We got Shimon coming in. He did fight last season on Dana White Contender Series, succumbing to a first-round submission to the Canadian man, Mike Malott, but he's back here ready for revenge. That was, in fact, his only loss. He is 8-1. And the big story about this week is he is going to be the bigger, taller fighter. And he did open up as he was originally at a much larger underdog price, but a lot of money has come in on the Shimon side. Billy Goff, 7-2, has won his last 5, and he is going to be the older fighter, but I mean, they're both young, 24, 21 years old. I think it's going to be an incredible scrap to get things going. And before I pass it over to you guys, I need to let everybody know, remember what happened last week? We were told to be like Joe Pyfer. We were told that there is going to be some violent spots. We were told that in order to get a UFC contract, you have to show up. And I think that's definitely a spot we're going to go to. Before I give it down, give my own thoughts, we're going to pass it over to you first, Narco. What are your thoughts on this first fight of the evening?
Yeah, interesting fight here. Shimon is coming back to the Dana White's Contender Series. Last time out, he got choked out by Mike Malott. And this time out, he's facing a guy in Goff who has a purple belt in BJJ. Still fairly young. He's 24 years old. I'm going to start with what I like with this guy. And what I like is the guy is constantly moving forward, puts a lot of pressure on all the opponents. However, he does leave his chin there to be hit. He did get dropped against Gary Boletto Jr. in that fight. And then Gary Boletto Jr. decides to go to a guillotine that never even comes close, and he gets chucked off. But the guy is super, super tough, man. I mean, one thing that clearly sticks out with this guy is toughness, right? He always wants to push you back. He always wants to throw those big shots. He works the body. Very, very nasty ground and pound. I mean, if he's on top of you, he wants to smash your head through that mat, man. And with all that, I mean, the guy's been 5 rounds. The guy has very good cardio. All these things that I see in him are good. His striking, it's very sloppy in my opinion. It's just kind of like throwing a lot of volume, but no real nothing real technical behind it. All he wants to do is push you back, throw a lot of volume, and keep that pressure on you. Now, Shimon, guy is super young, man, 21 years old. He trains with Natan Levy, so that's his a Jewish buddy, and they train together. But This guy was at Tiger Muay Thai for a little bit, according to his Instagram. He's recently been training a little at Syndicate and Extreme Couture in Las Vegas. So he's getting better training partners. He's a really big guy. I mean, guy is 6'2". He's going to be a big reach and height advantage here for this guy. The other thing about him is he's also a brown belt in BJJ himself. Yes, he got subbed by Malat, but Malat is so much better than Goff is as far as submissions. The other thing I like with this guy is he's switching stances really nice in his striking. And I think his striking is much better than Goff when it comes to technical aspect. In these fights, I watched a Yeskovitz fight where it was a split decision. Complete bullshit. 100% he won that fight. I have no idea how they gave it split, but whatever. I think he's the better technical striker. I think he's going to show more improvements. The thing with Goff is, from fight over fight, I really don't see a lot of improvements. I see the same guy doing the same thing, which works for him, and you can't, fault the guy. But at plus 190 is the price that I got in on Shimon. I like his side, man. I think he's the better striker. I think he can keep it on the feet for the most part. And I think his grappling, is not bad. I mean, it's shown he's put himself in bad spots, but I don't think it's horrible. And, a lot of times he's taking these guys back and he's subbing them himself. So for me, I'm going to go with Shimon's side here at plus 190. I know that was long-winded. Liam, you tell us what you like here.
Yeah, I think that this is an interesting fight. I do think that we definitely see a lot of toughness on the Goff side, seeing him work his way through some really deep submission attempts and find his way to the other side, which I always respect people that could do that. But there's no toughing your way through a choke, right? So I have seen the guy go unconscious actually more than once, kind of awkwardly as well. Like, the guy goes out, wakes back up. He's so tough that he'll wake back up and just start fighting the referee or something. Like, the guy half asleep did some nice zombie wrestling that I saw. But I think that in this fight, Shimon looks very big. He looks like he's in very good shape. And I'm not going to discount those factors. I did fade him at chalk with Mike Malott last time in the UFC. I think Mike Malott is like a class above somebody like Goff for sure, both in the striking and the grappling, as a matter of fact. So I think that for me, the idea of laying a bigger, wider price on somebody like this is not appealing to me. So it would have to be a dog or pass situation. That being said, props aren't widely released. When they are, there may be some more interest I have in this fight. I do think people are going to be looking for finishes here. And I think that, both these guys are capable of them, but I think that Shimon might be able to find a finish in this fight. I think that a lot of his win conditions are predicated on that. He can win a decision, but I think that a lot of what he does, it's pretty powerful striking. He's an opportunistic back taker, doesn't have a lot of submissions over high-level guys, but I do think that this is the kind of guy that can get submitted, puts his head in bad places at times. He's made improvements on the ground, but I don't think that he's, the greatest decision maker, honestly, when it comes to grappling situations. He got himself right out of a very tough Darce choke situation and jumped into the full guard and got submitted with a triangle. It's like, I don't know how to rate how that's going to look moving forward. That was an amateur fight. Obviously guys improve when they make it to the pros, but still seeing a lot of, potential for mistakes. And I think that especially in a high pressure situation like the Contender series, I could see him making a mistake here. So I'm not going to back him at the big chalk. If anything, it'll be a dog or pass situation for me, but a lot more due diligence must be done before I place a bet on that fight.
All right, and that's two of you guys on the dog to start it off. And you know what? Whereas I get the value, I would love to get the line that Narco did. Plus 190 is very, very wide here. I am going to side with the Goff side, especially if I'm taking a spot looking at it right now. I think that Goff's this is the type of guy you want to have your money on. He's a dog. He has shown to have a little bit of a slow start, but when he gets going, he really has a lot of physical attributes that can power through. The reason I'm not laying anything, especially chalk right now, is you're getting the taller, bigger fighter in Shimon. And I do think that he is dangerous here. But what I am seeing from both these guys, they both have a lot of defensive liabilities. All right, Shimon's able to go out there and put himself in bad situations. Billy Goff leaves a lot to be desired in terms of the defensive grappling, and despite him coming forward and being a very tough guy, I mean, it's not like he doesn't get hit. He gets hit cleanly, and I do think that this is a spot where Shimon might be the better striker in the kickboxing spot as well. What I am seeing here is I'm going to take the Joe Pyfer narrative. I'm going to take the you want to go out there, you want to get that finish, and I'm going to take violence. The one of the bets I do have so far is the under 2.5. This one I actually got at, I think this one's the minus 165 spot. It's still sitting there, exact same line. I'm on violence. I think that Goff is going to start off a bit slower. Shimon's going to have that advantage to start, and I think that he's going to be able to go out there and get a finish if he wants to. Shimon is going to be the more dangerous fighter early on, but as the fight progresses, the guy with the more heart, the guy who's got the more dog in him, I'm taking Billy Goff. And I do think that a lot of the win criteria for Shimon could think he is the better grappler. I think he's a better grappler, but in doing so, in transitioning, he's going to leave himself open to the biggest asset of Goff's game, which is that ground and pound. I do think Goff has an amazing ground and pound. He's a killer once he gets there, great killer instinct on the ground. And I think if he jumps guillotine and can't get it, if that dog survives and he's left on bottom, it's going to be a dangerous spot for a guy in Shimon who is young and still making mistakes in his young career. So give me violence in this spot. Give me both guys to go out there and leave it on the line. And with that being said, if they both go out there and leave it on the line, I do trust someone in Goff who has more resiliency, more dog in him, and makes it think a little bit less defensive mistakes to go out there and get the win. That being said, not laying chalk on him. I don't mind your spot Narco at big plus money. And I really I'm looking forward to see how this one goes, because I do think it's gonna be a fun one to start off the card. But that height and that reach and that size is definitely really a really good look for someone who has a plus 190 ticket, Narco. I'll tell you that for sure. But we'll keep it going. Next fight up, we have the heavyweights fights. And 265, man, I told myself with Dontel Mays last week that I was done betting low-level heavyweight MMA, but here we are, and we're talking about this again. And I'll tell you for a fact, I got a bet on this one already as well. So we got the 6-0 guy, Waldo Cortez Acosta, minus 360 right now. He's 30 years old, facing Danilo Suzart, 9-1 at plus 280 on the return. Also around 30 years old. So he's 31 actually. So we look at the weigh-ins again. This is another spot where you have a much larger fighter in Waldo. And I think that skill-wise, he's also going to be the better fighter. Danilo Suzart leaves a lot to be desired. But before I take this away, let's kick it off to Liam first. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I don't have tremendous thoughts here. Just because of where the betting odds are at. Don't really want to get involved because of the nature of the matchup. I do side with the favorite in this matchup. Looks to me to have slightly better cardio. I think he just has a much more athletic build. He looks a lot more like a fighter. Did see him get absolutely blasted with left hook uppercuts in a boxing ring, but that guy looked just a lot more well-schooled as a boxer. He was doing some slick footwork. He was switching stances on him, and then just took advantage, I think, of a little inexperience in the boxing by just pushing into him along the ropes and, spamming him with shots kind of in close. And I just thought he looked a lot more uncomfortable in the boxing scenario than he did in the mixed martial arts fights that I've seen from him. Because in those fights, he's doing a good job of digging underhooks, pushing guys into the fence, working on them a little bit there. And he does have big power in his hands. But the reason I don't want to get involved with the bet is just like, I've seen him be knocked out. I know the other guy carries power. And I think that he's going to win the fight at a pretty decent clip. But I just saw in recent bouts he's had, he kind of, even right before he knocked the guy out, he got touched on the chin and did a little bit of a, backwards wobble for a second, and it's heavyweight. So it's just if there's a huge edge, maybe I get involved. If I think he's going to grapple and take the guy down every 2 seconds, maybe I get involved, but I don't see either of those things here. I think they're probably going to be on the feet for the most part. He's probably going to control the fight in the clinch. And I think he's going to just last longer, land some good shots in the clinch, and eventually land something at space that finishes. But I think he's likely to get a UFC contract as well. He just seems like a guy who will be marketable for the right demographics for the UFC as well. So, yeah, I kind of like the Waldo side here, but not going to play it.
For sure. And you're right. It is a really hard spot to play. It's now up to minus 450 on BetOnline. I'll tell you that doesn't even add much to the parlays. I was thinking more so of a play on him when he was sitting. I think he's still at that minus 340 price on DraftKings. And there's something that I'll get to in a bit here. I'll let Narco speak first. But before I do, I just got to say, we got a guy in Suzart who is a mini Carlos Felipe, as you see. He trains with him. He got a similar style. But there's a lot to be desired on both sides, especially on that Suzart side. I do think that there's some decent holes in his game, and there's some definite technical aspects that he should be improving on. Narco, do you agree? Is it a tough spot to play the favorite, or are you on the dog here?
Yeah, I'm not touching this fight from a money line perspective. You know, Souza, you mentioned what he is. He's literally a smaller clone of Carlos Felipe. He trains with the guy at Life MMA. He throws the exact same overhand right and hooks. I mean, literally the same exact punches that Carlos Felipe throws. He also has his hair blonde, just like Carlos Felipe does at times. So, I mean, this guy, I guess they're best buddies or something. They train together. They have the same haircuts. The same color hair, and they literally fight the same. Now, when you look at Suzart though, in his last fight against Sehec, for me, he's got a W there, but I think he lost that fight, to be honest. Um, his wins, very unappealing. I mean, he's fighting to me, those guys that he's beating are complete cans. Um, he's also pretty small for the heavyweight division, and he's facing actually a big guy. I don't really see a lot of skill from this guy. There's really no grappling on tape that you see at all from this guy. So the guy's just going to stand up for 15 minutes. Is he tough? Yes. He reminds me of Felipe, honestly. He could take a punch, still come forward. He's jawing at you during the fight when you're hitting him. So he's literally a clone of Carlos Felipe. On the Acosta side, like the guy, Liam said he got knocked out a couple of times in boxing. But when I looked up those guys, those boxers that he fought, they're more like up and coming, like prospects in boxing. And I don't think he was that. Even though he has a reasonable 6-4 record as a pro boxer, like you can't knock the guy for that type of record. Now he's transitioning to MMA. He has very good cardio for a heavyweight, in my opinion. The one thing that he sucks at that is not going to come into play here is takedown defense, dude. Thomas Peterson absolutely ravaged this guy, took him down time and time again. He was well on his way to a to a L before he landed those big bombs in the third and ended up stopping Peterson. So the cardio is there. Technical boxing, he's good. I wouldn't call him very good, to be honest, because he tends to get hit a lot on the feet too. So with that being said, I think both guys are pretty durable. I think Acosta kind of starts really slow early. He's been over the 1.5 mark 3 out of the last 4 fights. Even the other fight, he stopped the guy in the second round. So with that being said, I did play the over 1.5. It was sitting at plus 160, which was very weird to me when I taped these two guys, because I didn't think a finish was really going to come very early. So I played that plus 160. However, the line has gone now. I think it's in the plus 105 range. And I don't know if that's very appealing anymore because, again, like Liam said, it's 2 heavyweights. It's a small cage. Both guys throw with pretty good power. So I'm not going to play that now. But if you got in at the early number, plus 160, I think there was some meat on the bone there. So, yeah, I'm not taking a money line side. I think Acosta wins. I might look at those late round props on Acosta, to be honest, because he does carry power late and has good cardio. But if nothing's appealing, I'm probably just going to pass altogether and just play the over.
For sure. Hey, that plus money number, another line movement you've beaten. That's a good spot there. But I mean, I think if I was looking at this from the very start, I told myself I'm not betting any low level MMA, but it's so tempting to look at here because I do think Acosta has a lot of the advantage. He has the cardio advantage. I do think he's decently durable. I think he's definitely got the size, the range, the kickboxing. I think he carries power late, as you mentioned. And it's really hard for me to see him losing this fight at a high clip. I think he actually wins it at a lot higher clip. I think he's just the one problem I have with him is his volume. I don't necessarily think he throws that much volume, and I think that's really detrimental to him in some spots. But with the Carlos Felipe style that Souza brings, I do think that's going to force a little bit of volume out of him, and I do think that's going to make it a bit easier for the better box, more technical and sharper boxer, in my opinion. Despite him not being great, would definitely look pretty great compared to Souza. I think Acosta is going to be able to win this fight at a pretty high clip, so it's tempting. Line's blown out of water, so it's a tough one for me to really go out there and run to bet it. So don't mind the over. I think I will be playing some round 3 nonetheless because I don't think that Souzart's cardio is that good either. And like you mentioned, Acosta brings that power late. But you're right. I think I might get around to the favorite, but no appeal for me on the Souza side at all. I do think that the line is justified. However, it's really hard laying that much in those low level heavyweights. So I think there are better spots in the card. I think that there are better ways for us to spend our money, and we'll definitely be getting to them shortly, because this next one up is a fun one as well. But before we get into that, first of all, 62 of you guys live, make sure to hit the like button down below, subscribe to the channel. Appreciate all you guys hanging out. Make sure to show some love to these two guys after the video is over, because we got 3 fights left, and I'm loving the spots we got so far. But next up, we have 2 5-0 prospects. This actually is one of the ones I'm looking forward to the most, and maybe not from a betting side of things. We'll get into that shortly, but it's a very, very good fight. I'm really looking forward to it. But you have the 5-0 Francis Marshall, 23 years old, 5'9", versus the controller Connor Matthews, also 5-0. He is 30 years old, 5'8". So they size up well, I think, at the weigh-ins. I think that it's going to be a really exciting fight, especially when you're looking at the records and the fighting style of the two of them. I think it's gonna be fun. I think it's gonna be electrifying. I know a lot of people are looking forward to this matchup. Narco, are you as hyped about as I am for this one?
Not really. I think these guys, honestly, like I'll say it up front. Initially, when the lines came out, I had taped a little bit of this, and I hit Matthews at plus 115. And yesterday or day before, I don't remember, I was taping a little bit, actually 2 days ago, I was taping a little bit more, no, Sunday, taping a little bit more, and there's too many question marks with Matthews, man. Like, okay, the guy trains with blows on, he's training with decent guys, he's supposedly a BJJ black belt now, and he's a former, Air Force special ops controller. So this guy, like, there was a big gap between him fighting in his amateurs and then coming back. But the one thing that you clearly see with this guy is he's fought a very, very low level of opposition. We can't look past that, right? But to his credit, right, you're fighting low level of opposition. You're supposed to do one thing: finish them early. He's doing that in every single one of his fights. The one thing I do see from this guy, as coming from a boxing background, his boxing is really solid, man. Like, his in and out movement, his feints, his power in his right hand is nasty, dude. Like, he has one punch KO power. I see it in almost even in the fights he's getting the submissions, he's dropping the guys first, hurting them with his right hand. They're dropping, he's going in and subbing them, right? So, with all that being said, the question mark is his cardio. What is it like? What happens when this guy goes 2.5, 7.5 minutes? Is he gonna die? Is he gonna fall off the cliff? Like, there's too many question marks there, which is why I hedged off back to the Marshall side, and I'm completely off this fight. Marshall has shown very good cardio, right? He's shown he can go 3 hard rounds. He can wrestle pretty well. He's chain wrestling like crazy. Very sloppy on the feet. Very, very sloppy on the feet. He honestly can get knocked out. I see it pretty easily. Like, if Matthews lands that big right hand, he's knocking this dude out, because he's extremely sloppy on the feet. I watched a fight versus Trujillo, and Trujillo was landing a lot on him. Even though Trujillo's over the hill, he's a complete, he's washed out now. Like, the guy is just not good anymore. In one sequence, he's on top. He get reversed by Trujillo. Trujillo's on top, which is also another bad look. Again, when this guy starts to get later in the fight, he starts to get really sloppy with his striking. But the cardio's there. He seems to be semi-tough. He's got, he's at Pellegrino, so he also has good chops for, jiu-jitsu, some wrestling there. He's a high school wrestling background. So, though he does have good attributes, but I just can't put my hand on this fight, honestly. One guy I really think has the death touch. The other guy has good cardio and good grappling, and a big question mark on his opponent with cardio. So it's a washout for me. I can't play anything. Unless the line gets crazy one way or another, I'm off this fight.
Hey, that's exactly what I was going to say. This is one where there's so many unknowns. Connor Matthews, 30 years old. Look at his combined opponent's record, 19-0. 115. I know there's Jay Ellis in there, so we won't talk about that too much. But on the other side, Francis Marshall's 38 and 38. Both these guys have fought questionable level of competition. You have more certainties about one side, especially in the cardio side on the Marshall. But when you look at Matthews, I think everything that he's doing, I mean, he couldn't be doing it any better, but it still leaves us wanting to see more. There's a lot of uncertainties that I think I have to be able to see from a guy, especially in a spot like this, before I go out there and want to lay a close to plus or a close to evens price tag on the guy. So it is going to be a pass for me as well. I do think that the under is something I was really, really looking at. I saw that you look at the records, you look at the fight tape, it looks like the under is the way to go, despite the lower typical finish rate for the weight division. I thought it was going to be lined a bit closer to evens, but it's juiced. I still think it hits. I do think that the under is a very good look here. With that being said, am I touching it at that price tag? Probably not, but it's a really, really fun fight in my opinion, but there's so many uncertainties. Liam, can you draw any certainties from all this mess of uncertainties?
So this is the fight I've definitely looked into the least on this card so far. However, if I was to play one of these fighters, instinctually it'd probably be Matthews in the spot. And the reason being is not that his opponent doesn't look like a good fighter. Everything looks like it checks out okay on paper, but got a lot smaller following. He's a lot younger, not really, a guy who has seen a lot of life. The other guys out there sparring with guys who are in, UFC top contender fights, Calvin Kattar, Rob Font. He's working with the right guys. Kurt Pellegrino, with all due respect, is like a guy who's been out of the UFC for a considerable period of time. It's like he's training with guys that are competitive UFC top-level fighters right now today. And, he's been doing it for like 10 years, So at a certain point, I do think that there's some value in the younger fighter. I'm constantly preaching about, just trends. You got to look at them, and like young fighters win fights a lot. So you don't want to just constantly bet against them. But that being said, in this kind of fight, when it's a contender series opportunity, think of Simon Smotresky. Now he's got a win over a UFC vet. He's coming back a lot more confidence, a lot more experience. The last time he was half shitting his pants, right? One of the angles I have cashed a lot of times on contender series is a guy who's like 24 or younger fighting a coach. That for me is a huge red flag. Solomon Renfro against Johnny Parsons. It was like plus 325. One guy's coaching MMA. One guy's 24 years old learning MMA. It's like you got to just think about level gaps sometimes and try and identify where they could be. Could there be a level gap between this guy who keeps knocking everybody out in the first round and finishing everybody, who's training with all these UFC level guys and has never been pushed in his fights? It's like, yeah, that guy might just be better. So I would probably be thinking about, laying off the young man here, let it be a prove it spot if you're on his side more often than not. That's what I would think. But hey, he's the younger fighter. I got to do a little bit more due diligence myself. Maybe I'll come away saying, hey, I feel differently. But I just think top line analysis, that's one of the things that I try and look at is guys who are more ready to go the night of. And I think he might be more ready to go the night of.
For sure. Narco?
I will say one thing. And this is obviously a big if I knew Connor Matthews had cardio, I would 100% smash him in this spot. I promise you. Because I think he's the much more skilled guy altogether. But it's such a huge question mark, man. Like and the problem is his opponent has really, really good cardio. So it scares me. And with that, I just can't do it. But yeah. I mean, that's all I wanted.
The more unknowns, the closer to 50-50, hence the line.
Yep, exactly.
For me, it isn't the cardio. I mean, George mentions it here. It's like the guy's military. I think he's going to have decent cardio. I think he's going to be has an okay chance of withstanding that. For me, it's the adversity. He's never really been dragged in deep waters. He hasn't fought anyone that's going to push him to be a better fighter there or see how he crumbles under all that. I do think that his cardio is going to withstand, especially earlier on. But for me, it's what happens when Marshall's able to go out there and get takedowns and doesn't wear out or doesn't pull a Jay Ellis out there. What happens? We haven't seen that from him, right? So for me, the cardio isn't as big of an issue. Of course, it's an unknown. Of course, I don't know what's going on that side of things, but I don't think it's as much of a problem as him facing a high level of competition, which I do think Marshall is. I am exactly with you though, NarcoCop. I think we see the same side of things as we have a fighter we like. we just can't pull the trigger because we're lacking a lot of information. With that being said, the more this line climbs, I mean, I set myself my line at around like the plus 145, plus 150 line. If I get that, I'll play Matthews. I don't care. I do think he's a more talented fighter with a lot more upside here. With that being said, we need to see certain things from him that we haven't been able to see yet. So I do think it ends inside the distance. It's a tough one.
He's a special warfare airman. Y'all think you don't have cardio? Jeez Louise. I don't know, boys.
Oh, I don't know. All right. Anyways, I do think that I might have to get there because the line, if the line keeps climbing, I definitely will. But the more we talk about it, man.
Everybody go bet Matthews so we can get I'm sorry, everybody go get Marshall so we can get Matthews at a better price.
No. We're here to help everybody out here. We should send everybody the other chats. Let's go find some other chats and tell them to go that. But no, this chat right here, you guys know that we are waiting for that Matthews line. I'm right there with you, by the way. The Marshall Matthews thing is really messing me up. But no, Connor Matthews, he is the guy that we're looking at. I do think that it's a spot where we should probably lay off because there are a lot of unknowns. But it's Dana White Contender Series. You want to play something. I might get there on the underdog. Either way, I don't mind it. Kyle's over here dropping some bombs here as well. Cardio should be good. All right. Let me see it firsthand. He's done everything he's supposed to.
Why don't you, huh?
I know, man. He's tempted. Oh, no, they're back. Oh, no.
They heard I was here.
Anyways, we move on. We got 2 fights left. Of course, we got to talk about the main event shortly. We got Charlie and Chris coming up. But before we do, Shannon Ross, 13-5 versus Vinicius Salvador, 13-4. This is another really fun spot. And again, 125. Again, this is a spot that we don't really necessarily see too many finishes at a higher level. But I mean, you look at the Joe Pyfer narrative. I'm going to say it one more time. And I did take a spot on the under when I got it at plus money, plus 110. It did open up plus 145, so I did miss out on that. But I do think this is a spot where you have 2 guys who both have finishing abilities here. You look at the better minute winner, the better fight in general. I do think it's Shannon Ross, but the one path to victory Vinicius Salvador does have is probably that knockout. With that being said, I do think that Ross is the better fighter here. I do think that he has the ability to walk forward and win this fight at a high clip. And I do think he gets a finish later on. So we'll kick it off to you first, Liam. What are your thoughts on this fight?
Yeah, I'm pretty undecided on this fight, but I was not sold on Ross as being a massive favorite here for sure. That being said, I wasn't in love with his opponent either, so it didn't inspire me to place a wager here necessarily. But the truth is, man, started looking at Ross and strikes me as a guy who is, a jack of all trades, master of none. His striking's okay. I do think that like most Contender Series guys, his defense needs a little bit of work, right? He needs to clean up the striking defense or he's going to get caught. It's been lucky he hasn't been caught so far. And also, he almost gave up a really weird leg entanglement in the Mokhtarian fight that he did lose, just seemed like making some pretty questionable grappling decisions there. Was able to get out, but the announcers were thinking that he might have injured his ankle or something because of how awkwardly his leg twisted up there. And I think, the way he responded in that fight wasn't great. He was getting taken down pretty consistently. So it was a while ago. It's possible he's made improvements. What I didn't like to see on the Vinicius side is the guy's getting taken down at every 2 seconds. He just can't help it get taken down. He's got no takedown defense, but he seems like a guy who's not going to get just blown out of the water most of the time when he's on the ground, right? He comes from the Hebos family, which I think is very good jiu-jitsu. I think people forget that Amanda Hebos stayed in the guard of Mackenzie Dern at points and things like that. So she's represented herself quite well. This guy does not look like, Amanda Hebos on the ground, but I do think that he has some things to offer. He'll eventually look for some submission attempts. He tries to control wrists. He tries to control posture. So he normally mitigates damage okay, throws back, he'll punch you back from his back. He'll throw elbows up and stuff. So again, not the most effective offense, but I do think he makes it hard for guys to just hang out on top of him. He lets guys stay in top position, but normally they come up worse for wear than he does. I'm curious how that looks in this fight. I think that Ross is going to be able to get takedowns if he wants them, but we talk about the Dana White speech. It's I don't know that he's going to be able to just blast him out from the full top guard or something. So I think that in order for him to get a contract and to fight, a little bit like he used to, a little bit more on the feet, a little bit more aggressive, I think that might be what we see from him here. And if we do, I don't think Vinicius is like some lights out striker or something either. His hand positioning is laughable at times. His footwork is not great, but he does seem to throw with a lot of power because like guys do not react well when they get hit by him. And he doesn't even throw with the best form. So it's not like something that you watch and you're like, wow, look at the striking on this guy. But you go, man, he kind of did some funky footwork through a left hand. And then the guy was like staggered by it pretty bad. And he's fought a decent mix of guys. Most of the guys he fought were absolute cans, but he's stepped up in competition. He's fought some tough guys. And the guy he lost to, it's like, no shame. It's like that guy was pretty good. So I think that guy could have a future as well. I think overall, it's a competitive fight. It's not a fight I'd be laying minus 225 on either one of these guys. I'll tell you that for a fact. And I think that it's a dog or pass situation given those lines, but I'm not fired up by the Vinicius side, so I'll probably let it go.
All right. Well, I'm not going to say much. I'm going to let Narco have a little rebuttal here. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, this is pretty much my main event, honestly. I saw a lot different. Maybe I am too high on Shannon Ross, but the thing that stuck out to me between him and Salvador is there's a huge, and I mean huge, speed advantage here. Shannon Ross is maybe 10 times faster with his striking than Salvador is. Salvador, some of the worst striking I've ever seen, to be honest. This guy's striking is absolutely pathetic. Like, he does not know how to throw straight punches. He does not know how to throw a jab. The thing that Liam mentioned, a hard gust of wind gets this guy on the ground. Like, he never works to get back up, which is very concerning. Like, you're just sitting there in guard, controlling wrist, throwing some punches from bottom, but never attempting to get up in these fights. It's like mind-boggling to me. The guy's a BJJ black belt. Don't see any jiu-jitsu from this guy at all. Does he have power? 100%. It seems like this guy has a lot of power. But Ross has faced a better opposition. The one thing I will say, I know Liam mentioned the Mkhitaryan fight. It was up a weight class, Liam. And honestly, when you watch that fight, Mkhitaryan looks like 30 pounds heavier than this guy. He looks huge. And the whole fight, the way he wins is getting takedowns. But because Ross couldn't stop it. This guy was so much bigger than him. And he just couldn't get up from bottom. And I think it's kind of like an unfair loss because they didn't look like they were in the same weight class. And he fought at 35 there. He took the loss by decision, which is fine. But I do think, when you watch that Donovan Frailu fight, yeah, Donovan Frailu's a little older now, but the guy is a pretty good striker. He has a lot of power. He went to split decision against Ricky Simon in Contender series. So the guy is skilled. And Ross clearly won that fight. Ross hurt him really bad in that fight. Ross has a very, very fast right hand. And Salvador is just there to be hit, dude. Like, the guy is wild. He's very awkward striking. Let me ask you this. Did you guys watch his last fight, Liam? Did you happen to find it?
I did, yeah.
Against the 0-0 guy?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. I mean, it was a war for whatever it lasted. And this 0-0 guy is blasting him, hitting with knees. At one point, he staggers him across the ring. It's like, how is he doing this against a guy that's making his professional debut? And there's just, I can't find a way, or not I can't find a way. I can't find a place that he's better than Ross. He's not better on the ground. He doesn't have better wrestling. He doesn't have better striking. Where is this guy better? Other than power, right? So for me, I laid the minus 210. I have 6.3 units on it, believe it or not, on Ross. But guys, I hedged it off, a little bit of it, right? Most of it, with a plus 550 KO on Salvador at 1.2 units because I do think he can get the knockout. He does have a ton of power. But if he doesn't land the knockout, I don't see this guy winning a decision. He's not getting any submissions because he never grapples. He never wrestles. He never takes anybody down. And the other thing I really like is the under 2.5. I got it at plus 116. It's, I think, minus 130 now. And I think this fight ends one way or another. The other thing, Salvador, gas tank, not that good. Ross, been 5 rounds. So he's clearly got the better gas tank. So, yeah, I like the Ross side here, man. He's just a way better fighter. Even at the age of 33, He's just a better fighter. And I was expecting Salvador to be a lot bigger than this guy because he normally fights at 35. There wasn't a huge side advantage at face-off. So I really liked a lot Ross side. But I wouldn't fault you if you're playing that KO just to hedge a little bit if you have a big bet on Ross like I do.
Hey, I'm with you. Great breakdown from both of you guys there. I have to side with Narco. I do think that Ross is the rightful favorite here. Narco said it all. I'm not going to go add too much to it. I do think that pretty much everywhere you're going to have Ross covering it here. Of course, you got to give, it's a fight. Anything can happen. That knockout is definitely on the table for Salvador. That is his major win condition, in my opinion, because I do think if we look at the technical striking, the wrestling, the grappling, the cardio, even the durability, I'm going to probably give it to the Ross side. Vinicius Salvador, he just leaves a lot to be desired. Hands down low, always hit. I think it's a spot where Ross can be able to run through the guy. And I think that the later this fight goes, he also going to have that cardio advantage. And as Narco mentioned, I do think he's able to finish him throughout here. I'm on the under as well. The only bet I have on this fight so far is the under 2.5. I didn't get the plus 116. I got the plus 110. That's a spot I'm really liking here. I think that this fight ends one way or the other. You have the major win criteria, being that knockout for someone like Salvador, or you have the guy in Shannon Ross who's going to be the better fighter, ability to wear him down over the stretch and probably get a knockout on his own right. I'm liking Shannon Ross here. I'm liking him to win by knockout, but that under covers both bases. So with that, we're 4 out of 5 fights down. We only have 1 fight left. We're at our main event, and we have 80 of you guys watching live. I appreciate all the love and support. Before we get into this main event, again, as always, like button down below, subscribe to the channel. Let's do this thing. Final fight of the night. We have a very, very fun one, in my opinion. This one's actually one that is also fun. I know you said the last fight for you was the main event, Narco. This one is a rightful main event for me. You have a guy in Chris Duncan, 8-1, his only loss being to Slavoj Borshev on Dana White Contender Series last year, versus Charlie Campbell, 6-1, won 5 in a row. This is a fun one. They size up pretty well. I think that they both are guys with decent upside and decent probably chance to do well in the UFC. But this is one where I'm leaning the favorite here. I'm leaning the Charlie Campbell side. I think that he has a lot of things that we see Chris Duncan struggle with last time out that he can take advantage of. This is a spot where I just think it's be a fun fight. Of course, I do think that violence is another option here with that whole Joe Pyfer narrative, but I think this is one where Charlie Campbell's able to take over down the stretch. He's got a lot of tools that he's been able to win this fight, and I do think that he's able to withstand the power and the wrestling of Chris Duncan here, and I think he wins this fight pretty convincingly. Let's start it off with you, Narco. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I'm right with you. I like the Charlie Campbell side. I've been following this guy for a while now. I saw him fight in Bellator live. I saw him in CFFC. The fight in CFFC is the one that kind of like stuck out to me with this guy because he fought a guy that not too many people are going to know. It's Cedric Gunnison, but the guy is very skilled. The guy he fought is not like some bum. It was pretty much I don't want to say it's a tough fight because he absolutely torched the guy's leg, but the guy was torching his leg back. So, but Charlie Campbell, I mean, he almost had him out in the first round. He hurt him again very bad in the third round. The guy clearly has good striking, a very, very good kicking game, very, very nasty low kicks, training with very good guys. We had Frivola on Spaces, and he talked about this guy. He said, listen, this guy's striking is really, really good. His grappling is getting better. He's a really good fighter. And then we had the other guy that grapples there, and he also talked about this guy's striking, and he said how good Charlie Campbell's striking is. What do we know about Chris Duncan? He's got pretty good hooks. He's got good power, a durable guy, but very, very hittable. There to be hit. There to eat those right hands that are pretty powerful from Charlie Campbell. Very heavy on his lead leg. That's there to be chopped off by Charlie Campbell. Can he throw kicks himself? Yeah, Chris Duncan has pretty good kicks himself, but much slower than Charlie Campbell. His punches come off a little slower. He has a very, very good chin, even though he got knocked out by Borshev. But you can only take so many shots, man. Like, you can't keep taking shots. And we saw where Borshev eventually knocked him out. I think the same thing is going to happen here. He's just there to be hit. Charlie Campbell's going to have a big reach and height advantage. Charlie Campbell looked much bigger at faceoffs. And, I like Chris Duncan as far as being a tough guy, an exciting guy to watch. but his striking defense is absolutely awful. And you're fighting a guy that's a really good striker. Can he get takedowns? Maybe. Can he hold down Campbell? I don't think so. He couldn't hold down Borashev. I don't think he holds down Campbell. And Campbell has pretty good takedown defense. So with that being said, I do really like the Campbell side. I bet 3 units at minus 140. I really like that side. I think he's a guy that's probably going to get into UFC. I do think he's going to get a contract. I do think he's going to look very good in this fight. Liam?
Yeah, man. I think both these guys are probably going to fight for the UFC at some stage. Reason being, Chris Duncan seems like a marketable guy, man. Like, he was a guy they brought out last season, kind of got a rough go of it. His opponent, fails his weight cut. They pull him from the fight. So he sticks around, does another weight cut, stays around for a week, and takes on Slava on short notice, which I did end up fading him there. I actually have not lost a bet on any of the Contender Series fighters that are on this card from last year. I had Slava 1 unit at plus 120, and then I had Mike Malott several units. I also bet the under 2.5 rounds for Duncan and geez Louise, why am I drawing a blank now? Slava. Yeah, thank you. So I bet the under for that fight as well. And I think the reason was because, Slava carries a tremendous amount of power, and I thought that he was going to have opportunities to land. What I thought really stood out about Duncan in terms of my research is that he's done the right things to improve as a fighter. So I want to give him that credit and respect, right? Guy was training in Scotland, Evo Gym, and he was getting good work, but he said these, training partners weren't the same push that I'm getting in the States. He moved to the States for a 7-week training camp with ATT. I believe he's done a week out in Las Vegas as well. He went to the Scottish Hit Squad, Paul Craig and those guys. He went all around Europe. He went to Great Britain top team, another good place to train. So for me, there was a lot of good work that's been put in by Duncan. He also fought a complete can in his fight away. He was scheduled to fight another complete can. So they basically told him, go get any win over a warm body and we'll have you back. So he's back. But they didn't do him any favors, right? It's you look at the guy that they matched him up with last time, Slava, bad matchup, tough matchup. Charlie Campbell, I think, is a bad and tough matchup. And the reason being, Charlie Campbell, tough guy, right? I heard from somebody in Spaces, I think you were there too, Narco, where he was talking about he's one of the tough guys in the gym, very difficult to hold down, difficult to beat up on, difficult to submit, and he's a hammer on the feet. He's quick. He moves around people. He sets angles in his fights. He seems like he's got a pretty rock chin. He's been hit pretty hard, pretty cleanly in a handful of his fights. Seemed to take the shots well, keep moving. And he seems like he's the one that's doing the hurting in his fights. You talked about it, Mike, where the leg kicks were landing for both guys. It's just one guy couldn't stand on his leg no more. And Charlie Campbell seems like, you're going to have to break his leg to get him to stop walking forward. Now, in terms of what Duncan can do to win this fight, he's been training with good guys. He's been training with Grant Dawson. He's been training with guys that could grapple, Mateusz Gamrot, right? So if he's smart, he's going to come out here and he's going to try and wrestle and grapple. Last fight, he didn't do that, right? Even though it was probably advantageous. He tried at various points, but he wasn't able to hold down Slava Claus. And to be honest with you guys, Slava Claus has been held down with shocking ease in the subsequent bouts that I was wow, why could Chris Duncan not hold this guy down? And maybe it was because he took too much damage too early. He's just there to be hit by every shot in that fight and ate a lot of jabs, a lot of hooks, uppercuts as well. It was a brutal fight. He took a ton of damage and he got knocked out bad. But I think the reason why he was having a hard time reading the striking attack was because he was mixing it up to the body. And you're going to get the exact same thing here from Campbell. So maybe we're going to see some improvements there, but it's a tough way to come back here. You fight somebody you're way better than. First win by decision, by the way, for Chris Duncan, who talked about, I'm a finisher. I'm always going to be a finisher. Everything I do is about finishing. And then he goes out there, he gets a win by decision over, fairly low level comp. Charlie Campbell's finishing people routinely. And you mentioned the Gunnison fight is the fight that I thought I was going to be the genius in the room. Like, look at how this Gunnison guy turned out. Like, never lost a fight before or since. That's the truth. Never lost a fight before or since. He's 4-1. He's been winning, decent fights. And I think the Gunnison win is really impressive. I'm not sure which one I could put up from Duncan that I'd say the same level of impressment. Now, Duncan is also a guy who's 55 and 170. He's kind of doing a little bit of that back and forth. He's a big fellow. But again, now he's got to cut down to 155. He looked gaunt to me at the weigh-in. This guy looked like he had the weight cut of all weight cuts. And then on top of that, he's out there saying I can't see a way that this guy can't stop me. I can't see. He said that about the last guy, and then he got flatlined brutally. So I do think that, he's a good fighter, and I think he's going to make it to the UFC. I think it's the wrong guy. I think that Charlie Campbell is going to win the fight. And so I also bet Charlie Campbell. He was my favorite read on this fight card. And I think that he's a very solid fighter. From what I heard, he's a level above Dennis Bazooka. I was very confident Dennis Bazooka was going to win that fight. And this is another guy, same camp full of killers. A lot of guys working really hard there. And he's got good training partners, a lot of them right around his weight, a lot of good advice in his corner. I think he's a tough guy to beat right now. I think he'll win UFC fights, by the way.
I love it, man. Last time we were 3-0 on the main event. We all picked the same side, and we got it right. We're doing it again right here. Charlie Campbell's the way to go for me as well. I do think that is tough, and I will admit to my mistakes. I bet Chris Duncan against Lava last time. I thought that he was going to be able to hold him down and have an ability to throw powerful shots in the feet to really contest him. What I learned from that fight was Duncan isn't as explosive or as fast as we thought he was. He's actually pretty slow. He's pretty plodding. He actually is really heavy on that lead foot as well. And this is a spot where I think he's really going to have to face a guy who's going to be able to outstrike him, Charlie Campbell, a guy who's going to be able to hit him with leg kicks and pepper him down the middle. And I think he's going to have a huge speed disadvantage here. And then is he going to be able to hold down Charlie Campbell? Well, I think Charlie Campbell is a better defensive wrestler than Borshov is. I think he's a better grappler than Borshov is. I think he has the ability to go out there and keep it on the feet. So give me a guy in Charlie Campbell who's going to be able to outstrike Chris Duncan, to keep it upright and weather the storm. And I think that he is going to be able to win this fight at a pretty high clip. I'm with you guys. That's 3 for 3. I like Campbell this week, and it's a good spot. Go ahead, Narco.
Some things to add that I didn't mention, and I had them written down here. Charlie Campbell, when you look at him, he has a bunch of late round stoppages. In the amateurs, he had 2 third-round stoppages. In the pros, a bunch of second-round stoppages. Guy has very, very good cardio. Just watch that. Like Liam said, and I said that. Watch that Gunnison fight. Like that's a fucking high-paced, crazy kicking. I mean, he's fighting on one leg basically the fight, but he's still chopping off the other guy's lead leg, and it's he's digging deep. The one thing that Liam mentioned that I didn't mention is very important. He loves to hit that body, Charlie Campbell. And the other thing that I didn't mention that I think is very important, he's got some very nasty knees in the clinch, man. Like extremely nasty knees in the clinch. And I think those are going to be, if Duncan closes distance and he wants to get takedowns, he's going to eat some knees in that clinch because Charlie Campbell loves throwing them. I don't know, man. It's Charlie Campbell to me. I think this line is short. I might even add to it if it stays here. Guy is impressive, man. Everybody talks good about this guy. He's got one loss early on in his career. I think he's just getting better and better.
He's the ultimate showman. That's the reason why the UFC wants this guy, in my opinion. He goes out there, he talks shit, he tells you he's going to beat you up, he makes the fight fun and exciting, he's not afraid to get hit, he's not afraid to make it a fight, he doesn't go out there and try and wrestle you, sniff your crotch. Like, the guy will go out there and put on a cage fight with anybody and try his damnedest, and he normally brings a shocking amount of violence. So I think the UFC is going to want to sign this guy.
And the other important thing is, just so you know how tough and gutty, and this guy doesn't give a shit, the last guy he fought at 155 weighed in 163, and he still freaking fought him. He's like, yeah, let's go, no problem. And he still kicked his ass in the first round. So I like this guy. I really do. I've been following him for a while. His kicking game is really, really good. His right hand is nasty, dude. Like, I don't know how many of those Duncan's going to be able to eat. So, yeah, I'm glad we're all on the same side. We're literally
New York boys, stand up. New York boys in the house.
Campbell, definitely a dude. So, yeah.
Hey,
that's it. Sorry.
No, you're all good. I love it that we're on the same side here. And that really concludes our full card breakdown. Before I let you guys go, though, we've got a couple questions here. And if you guys have any more you want to ask, right in the chat right now. First things first, Mushroom asking on a Ross, Acosta, and Campbell parlay. I'll let you guys say your P's and Q's about it. First of all, those are my three favorite fighters on the slate. Those are the fighters I like the most. I know in the very first fight of the night, we are head-to-head on that one with the Shimon and Goff side, and in the middle one with all the unknowns. So those are the three spots I do like. What about you guys? Narco, you like that one at all?
Yeah, I mean, I like all three of those sides. So I think that's a, pretty good parlay. I don't really play parlays, but I know Mushroom is Mr. Parlay. So yeah, Mushroom, if you're going to pick three, those three look pretty good to me.
What about you, Liam? Same thing?
So if I had to make a parlay with this week's Contender Series, I would go Charlie Campbell, the 125-pound bout not to go the distance, Hunter Matthews, Waldo Cortez Acosta, and Smotresky.
You don't want to
Feels wrong. Maybe fight doesn't go the distance there. How about that? If I could do that, I'll do 2 fight doesn't go the distance and 3 sides.
All right. What about you, Narco?
As far as
big
what?
parlay? Dana White said it's your parlay.
I didn't really write anything, but I do love the under spot that Liam talked about in that 125 fight. Like I got it at plus 116. I like that spot a lot. I really like the Campbell side, so you could stick in Campbell there. I really don't think Acosta's losing, so I would stick him in there. Shimon again. Now the price is getting a little shorter. I like him at the big plus money, but I honestly do think he's the more skilled fighter. Like Goff is just a dog, and that's what afraids me. But that's what I'm afraid of. But yeah, I mean, I'm on the Shimon side, so yeah, that's about it.
If I gotta tell you which side I'm on from a betting side of things, it's funny because I can see the under happening in all the fights, but the under that I'm least confident about is the heavyweight fight, which is really funny because it's heavyweights and you expect that to go under. I like the under in the Goff Smosky fight. I am on that side. I like the under in the Marshall Matthews fight. I like the under in the Ross Salvador fight. I'm on that one. I like the under in the Campbell Duncan fight. But if I want to take my favorite spot from each fight, we'll take the under in the first one in the Goff fight. We'll take Waldo. We'll take the under in the middle one in the Matthews versus Marshall fight. We will take Ross and Campbell to end it off. So 3 money lines, 2 unders. Let's be like Joe Pyfer, guys. Let's get ourselves some nice finishes and end it off with a bang. I know that I had a decent week last week. I know it's fun every week breaking it down with you guys, but that's going to do it. I mean, we're going into week 2. I think there are some very decent, entertaining fights this week. And of course, next week we got Bo Nickel. So that video will be on Liam's channel. But before I let you guys go, anything else you guys want to add, let them know where they can find you and really just let the people know really what you're doing this week, because you guys have been great and I really appreciate you guys coming on the channel. So first things first, Narco, where can they find you?
Yeah, they can find me on NarcoCop on Twitter. My YouTube channel is NarcoCop MMA. I'm leaving town, going to my new city in Glendale, Arizona. I will have a more fixated spot. I'm going to get ready to go. I'm going to do a lot of taping out there. But yeah, guys, I mean, thank you for joining us, because I always say it, without you guys, these channels would not be up and running. And I want to thank everybody in chat. Yeah, man, let's just have a great day. I'm glad a lot of us, all of us mostly see the same side on a bunch of these fights, which is gives me more confidence, because you guys are two very sharp guys.
No, I appreciate that very much. I know we're on a lot of the very same side, so I hope we make some money together, and I hope we start a winning streak. I think we do great at it. So it's been really fun. Liam, what about you? Your turn. Where can they find you?
Yeah, well, I'm not going to talk about me so much. I'm going to talk about my man Blake Perry, absolutely representing out there at Uriah Faber's A1 Combat. I thought that he was about to win the fight. I thought his opponent was looking for a way out and he was looking for a way in, but tough break. Doctor doesn't let him go. Bad nose break. My man's going to be famous for that broken nose, but he's going to be famous for getting on the Contender Series one day too. Hell of a fighter, hell of a guy. So shout out Blake Perry, Blake MMA 170 on Instagram. If you guys are looking for a fighter to support, can't think of a better one myself. Greatest living American that I know, Blake Perry. So shout out him. And also just want to say, guys, thanks for everybody for the support. Tough 2 weeks for me on UFC bets, but same process, right back to work for me. And I'm very excited because tomorrow is going to be my first article for the Action Network about the Dana White Contender Series. So the fights that I haven't done as much tape and research on, I'm going to be doing right now as we get off the air and sharpening up on those. And hope that you guys will check out the article because I'm excited to get started with the Action Network. So thank you guys for the support, and right back to work for UFC this weekend as well.
Awesome job, Liam. I like that.
Is
I like
amazing.
hearing that. I like
No,
hearing that. I'm right there with you. I'm down the last 2 weeks in UFC. I've been on an incredible run, so I honestly can't complain. Like, it's gonna happen. There's variance in this, and there's variance in fighting. You're not gonna win every week, so it's okay. We live, we learn, and we just keep chugging forward and crushing those books.
Especially when the dogs go 2-11. Look at my mug. It's gonna be tough for me to win when the dogs go 2-11. I need the dogs to start pulling through for me.
Trust me, I was on a bunch of dogs too.
Hey, man. Well, we got both of your YouTubes and your Twitters in the description down below. Liam, when you write that article, send it to me. I will also include it in the link down below. Amazing job there. You do a great job, and I'm really looking forward to reading that as well. But that's going to do it for week 2 of the Dana White Contender Series breakdown. That is just above 1 hour. 1 hour, I think, of what was really, let's say, informative. I really like the sides we took. I really like the breakdowns from you guys, and I love hearing that we're on the same sides for a lot of them. It gives me great insight too. That I'm doing my job pretty well because you guys are very sharp. And as always, I appreciate you guys coming on the channel. Again, next week, Liam Picks Fights channel's in the description down below. That's where we'll be doing week 3, and that's where you can find us again every single Monday night. Let's say 10 o'clock. That's how it's usually going to be. But I appreciate everybody hanging out in chat. We got Daz here as always. A lot of people wishing Narco a safe travels, and I ditto that. Tajik, thank you very much, my friend. Mushroom, thank you for hanging out. Casanova, Coach, everybody like that, and Mushroom, of course, letting the people know Lambo plays Friday, 10 p.m. Eastern time. I wouldn't miss that one at all. That's going to do it. In terms of my stuff, you can find me at the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. That is the channel right here, right now. Make sure you subscribe to that, liking the video, showing some love for doing this nice little live stream. I'll be posting my DFS breakdown prop drop live stream as always right here. Then on Twitter, at Gambles Gorge, where you can find me, and you can find both of their Twitters in the description down below. But that is it. That is all for week number 2 of Dana White Contender Series. Make sure to ask us any questions you may like on Twitter, and really just enjoy the fights tomorrow. I really like the spots we got. I like the bets we got. And with that, guys, we're done. So good luck, everybody. Enjoy the fights, and